Whoa, did Predator Badlands just save the Fox corner of Disney? Well, maybe not save, but certainly just gave it a big old jolt of energy right when it desperately needed it, because both the Alien and Apes franchises have been stalled. Both the sequels for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and Alien Romulus have lost their directors. Wes Ball jumped over to the live-action Zelda movie. I mean, what an amazing opportunity for him. Don't know if he's the right choice, but he's who Avi Arad is going with. And, supposedly the Ape sequel and The Legend of Zelda are both supposed to come out in 2027, so he can't make both movies. And then, for reasons unknown, Fede Alvarez, while he's still going to produce it, he just dropped out, last month, of directing the Alien Romulus sequel, which was supposed to be going into production. Uh-oh! And then there's Alien Earth, which got this close to being the last Jedi of the franchise, or the Acolyte. It was close. Really upsetting a lot of core fans. Whew! And it was radio silence for a second season for months, even with the New York Comic-Con panel. It was looking bad. But then Predator Badlands posted the best opening for its franchise yet and the best critic and audience scores, turning around not just, the franchise itself and, highlighting the Fox situation, but kind of a turnaround for Disney overall. So that's very exciting for them. And we'll see, and again, as I said, the best critic and audience scores. And we'll see what the second weekend drop looks like. But as we'll discuss on Movie Math on Sunday, Alien Romulus fell 61% in its second weekend, yet still worldwide managed to climb to 350 million, which would be an incredible number for the Predator franchise. So yes, again, a jolt of energy, right? So Disney quickly moved to announce season 2 of Alien Earth, just about a couple of days after Predator Badlands debuted. And with PR strategy, that's to create momentum. And I think it does, especially because Predator Badlands is kind of an Alien crossover with Weyland-Yutani synthetics, who are in Alien Earth. So, all right, so I think this is the perfect time to take a look at where the Disney Fox franchises currently stand and where they might be going. And I want to start with the franchise that's now leading the pack, Predator. And out of these three, who'd have ever thought it would be Predator? It's all Dan Trachtenberg, baby. He's the engine driving this Predator machine and pulling the other two franchises behind it. And Trachtenberg is fueling that machine with big ideas. He knows the lore of all the Disney Fox franchises. He is a generous creator. For instance, he said Badlands as the farthest story into the future yet across, certainly for Aliens and Predator, because he didn't want to step on any toes with Alien Romulus and Alien Earth, which were both being made at the same time as Badlands. So he's like, let me go find a safe space for me to operate and not have to worry about counteracting anything else. If only other creatives were so careful and respectful of their other creatives, their fellow creatives, and the fans, and the projects. Looking at you, Wanda Corner. All right, so anyway, and he's not only looped in Weyland-Yutani synths, but also some fun Easter eggs. We all thought it was awesome that it looked like there was an alien skull from Independence Day up on that trophy wall. Of course, another Fox, now Disney Fox sci-fi movie. And is that an engineer skull? It might be. It's fun to wonder if it is. Point is, Trachtenberg is thinking beyond just his own, not just his own movie, but his own franchise. He's thinking cinematic universe building because he knows that's a proven way to get fans engaged. And sure enough, he even revealed at the last Comic-Con a new post-credit scene for his recent animated Predator movie over on Hulu, which brought back not just Amber Midthunder's character from Prey on Hulu, but also brought back Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny Glover's characters from earlier Predator movies. In fact, Trachtenberg has outright said he has plans to bring back Midthunder. She was his original choice for Predator Badlands to team up with Deck. I think he made the right choice to introduce Elle Fanning's synthetic, especially because of, certain other aspects to the movie. I don't want to have spoilers in case you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, Midthunder is definitely coming back. However, Trachtenberg's Predator producer Ben Rosenblatt says there's a very good chance, he didn't mention Danny Glover, but he said they're in active talks with Arnold Schwarzenegger to return, probably even beyond the animation corner. It's something they're, again, aggressively working on. So I think, again, as I said on Movie Math on Sunday, with this box office and critic and audience score success, I think that's going to step up that timetable. So yeah, Trachtenberg leading the charge here. So let's take a look, if the other creatives are smart and the executives in charge, of how Trachtenberg's ideas and strategies might have an effect, the Predator Badlands effect, on the other Disney Fox franchises. I'm particularly looking at Mr. Noah Hawley. Now, Hawley, I loved what you did with Alien Earth, but there's no denying there's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to the overall fan-based reaction. So what did Dan Trachtenberg do? What are the lessons of Predator Badlands that the Alien and Apes franchise can learn from? Well, I'm gonna write them out for you, and I'll be very interested to see if you think there are any additional lessons that you would add. So, again, strong cinematic universe building. But unlike Alien Earth and Alien Romulus, while Trachtenberg also introduces new ideas and themes, some of them quite modern, he doesn't stray too far from the established core of the franchise. And he makes sure to keep OG Predator fans fed. You gotta, I think there's a lot of red meat. Well, there's actually no red blood in Predator Badlands. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you got to keep the original fans fed. Making xenomorphs pets, I thought it was fantastic, but not the best idea in hindsight. It's interesting. Everybody approaches these franchises in different ways, and I think you can't. But it's important that there's variety there's variety within the fandom. And so that's something that happened a lot with Last Jedi. The disrespect for Luke Skywalker, which again, I had no problem with, really upset a lot of fans. So I think it's important to not just, I think Noah Hawley only looked at Alien as how he related to it as a fan. And I think maybe he should have done a little spot polling to see what some of the other fan reactions were and how people potentially have different takeaways from the Alien franchise than he does. And I think Dan Trachtenberg is, more has his finger more on the pulse of the overall fandom. It's rare to see a creative not put their own personal tastes first these days. So yeah, the xenomorph pet idea, that turned out, I think that's probably one of the worst things that Alien Earth did in retrospect. I mean, Wendy can still talk to xenomorphs. OG fans are intrigued by the idea of her becoming some sort of xenomorph queen, because that fits with what Alien has already established. But again, neutering the xenomorphs has really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Literally turning them into these two into pets. They're not even like partners, man. Okay. And that human xenomorph hybrid, again, I thought it was fun. But at the end of Romulus, that might have been a step too far, right? But I must say, synths continue to prove to be extremely popular, now across multiple Disney Fox franchises. Too bad Blade Runner isn't a Fox property. Nerds! As for hybrids, though, what's the focal point of Alien Earth? I think the jury is still out on hybrids. I think maybe not on cyborgs. How do you feel about, lions and tigers and bears? Oh my. Also, I think Alien Earth has a little bit too many pop culture references in it. They really leaned into that Peter Pan metaphor a bit too much. You're making an alien thing, not a Peter Pan thing. But what do you think of synths, cyborgs, and hybrids? Now, as for synths with their white blood, as Dan Trachtenberg so brilliantly figured out, you can have a very action-heavy and violent movie, but if you have no red blood in it, you still can keep a PG-13 rating, which is, I think just another reason to make an all-synth movie, baby. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Then, though, because right now we're talking lessons. So I think one of the best lessons to take away from Predator Badlands is that, like the recent Top Gun Maverick, it's a throwback to the way that Hollywood used to make them, right? What does the franchise you're doing represent? Why do people like it so much? Although, of course, you have to still keep current and upcoming audiences intrigued as well. But these franchises had their heyday, back when Jimmy C was king. And Jimmy C's still kind of king, but James Cameron, right? Badlands is intentionally James Cameron coded. Trachtenberg modeled Predator Badlands after Terminator 2 very effectively. And don't forget, of course, what's Jimmy C's own history? He turned Ridley Scott's Alien into a bona fide franchise with his sequel Aliens. So James Cameron is directly tied into the Disney Fox universe, and he's part of it to this day, because don't forget that the Avatar movies are also, they're on such a much higher level that we don't think of them the same way. But yeah, Avatar's in here too. So I think that everyone working on a Disney Fox sci-fi franchise should be thinking Jimmy C. And maybe even talking to Jimmy C. If I were a Disney exec, I'd say, how much do I have to pay you, Jimmy, to be the godfather of my Disney Fox movies? Just like you gave Dan Trachtenberg some advice. You sat down, and it was Dan Trachtenberg who sought out Jimmy C. to Trachtenberg's credit. But I'd say, if I send my directors to you and my directors, producers, and writers on these movies to come talk to you, and we'll pay for your lunch. I mean, Jimmy's like, you're already paying for my lunch. Would you do it? So we're definitely getting another Predator movie. The question is what is the one that Dan Trachtenberg has in mind? He said he had 3 movies that he wanted to make. He's already made 2 of them. So is the third one like an entirely different idea, or was it a Predator Badlands sequel that he had in mind? But if it's not a Predator Badlands sequel, I think a Disney exec might be like, but what about my sequel, since everyone liked this one so much? All right, but another reason that Disney is so incentivized to get these Disney Fox franchises back up and running is because they're IPs. And nobody beats Disney when it comes to mining IPs, even with all the hiccups that Disney is having right now, because for Disney, it's just so easy. They have an amazing apparatus already up and running where they can, like that, get the most out of their IP. Of course, they can produce movies. They have comic books through Marvel. In fact, a Predator Badlands comic just came out this week. They can do streaming shows, either on Disney Plus or on Hulu, where Alien Earth aired. I think that Hulu is where not only these Disney Fox shows should live, but I'm making the case that a lot of the Marvel shows should really be over there as well. And then, of course, theme park rides. Now, mixing the edgier Fox brands in with Disney has in the past proven to be difficult. Alien Encounter at Tomorrowland, that was even before the Disney Fox acquisition, didn't quite work out. I mean, it did last almost 10 years, but then they took it out. But Disney Imagineering is learning to incorporate edge into their experiences thanks to Deadpool, who not only is in the theme parks, but has now just moved over to the cruise ships, where he's gotten away with some pretty racy jokes on the newest Disney Destiny, I believe it's called. Also, Trachtenberg, he's going to meet Disney in the middle here because he's brilliantly Disney-fied Predator with this latest film, right? Not only moving it into PG-13 territory, but making it very Guardians of the Galaxy coded, who have been a tremendous success in the Disney theme parks and experiences. And if Avatar can have a land in Animal Kingdom and soon other Disney parks, but Animal Kingdom was where it made its debut, why not have another alien land there, right? You could do Jenna from Badlands, and because Predator and Alien have already intercrossed, you could do a land where there is both Alien and Predator. Animal Kingdom, I think that would benefit Animal Kingdom substantially. What theme park would you put? I mean, you could also put it in Hollywood Studios, which is now a catch-all. That's where Star Wars is, of course. But I like the Pandora adjacent. I like, focusing on the alien planet, aspect of it very much so, because Jenna is very much, it's almost its own character in the new movie. So I would go with Animal Kingdom, but I'm curious, what theme park would you put the Disney Fox franchises? And maybe not all in the same one. So for sure, Trachtenberg is going to get to do another Predator movie, maybe another animated movie. I think Predator Badlands has been such a success and Trachtenberg is proving to be such a strong visionary. He's got direction. He's got purpose. I think everything is now on the table for him. Honestly, they're probably like, what do you want to do, Dan? All right, so the Alien franchise, things are a little murkier over there. So let's take a deep dive into that space. So the really big headline in the Alien corner of Disney Fox is that Sigourney Weaver might be returning. Yep, like I told you, Disney's span is vast, and they're in the Sigourney Weaver business. A while back, she did a Marvel project. Now she's in the upcoming new Star Wars movie. And don't forget, of course, she's a major part of Jimmy C's Avatar. So she's already talking to Disney all the time. And during one of those meetings, they said, how'd you like to come back as Ripley? Remember, Hollywood is still playing the nostalgia game, and Schwarzenegger and Weaver they fit right into that play. I know some of you have said you don't want Schwarzenegger back, or maybe even Sigourney Weaver, but if they're in smaller roles, I think that's a major headline. It gets a lot of attention. It's very Easter eggy. There's a lot to break down when you introduce older characters. I still think it's a good idea. Weaver revealed at a recent New York Comic-Con panel, which focused on her entire career, that a new script is being written by longtime Alien producer and sometimes co-writer Walter Hill. Who? Nobody knows who Walter Hill is, really. I'm sure some Alien superfan is like, I do. But maybe this is Walter Hill's time to shine. And this script would bring back Ripley. So what will be the next Alien movie, right? We got a couple of films jockeying for that next spot. There's the Alien Romulus sequel, although again, with Alvarez just dropping out as director, and with the film supposed to have gone into production right now, that's a significant delay because they haven't even hired a director, and that director would have to go through their own version of pre-production, even if it was quick, before they could have cameras roll. I'd also like to point out that Alvarez had a couple of brilliant ideas himself, his biggest being basing his movie on the video game Alien Isolation, which was very well received by the fans. And that video game featured Ripley's daughter, Amanda, right? Where is Amanda Ripley? Especially because she was the head of the main character in that game. That seems like a character that they should be fast tracking. And perhaps if you're going to bring back Ellen Ripley, the franchise should use that movie as an opportunity to introduce Amanda. Their timelines don't really cross over if you're going with the whole situation with Amanda Ripley died while Ellen Ripley was still in hibernation between the Alien and Aliens movies. But who knows, man? Maybe somebody made an Ellen Ripley synth, right? She's been part xenomorph. Why not have her go part synth? I mean, I'm all for it. But, while nostalgia is big these days, you can't go too far back, right? Because that was fascinatingly a big part of the issue with Alien Earth, and that its touch point was the 1979 film, which delighted many of us. But for a lot of other people, again, talking about different perspectives, a fractured fandom is very dangerous for a franchise because they don't know what page to put everybody on. That's one of the reasons I think Marvel was so successful for a while, because they were new. And so everybody was on the same page. They didn't have all this history they had to battle. But yeah, we've discovered that a lot of Alien fans are like, whoa, we like the Ridley Scott prequels better. To us, those are the Alien films, right? And by the way, Predator Badlands, which just was very well received, because it's set so far in the future, it has similar Weyland-Yutani technology to the Ridley Scott prequels. So that's interesting. But Prometheus and Covenant were, again, prequels. So why is their technology so much more advanced than the technology in the 1979 film, which is supposed to come afterwards? The Alien franchise really needs to decide what its touchstone is. What are they going to, what is the main thing? The recent Ridley Scott films, which did quite well, the first Prometheus did very well, not necessarily adjusting for inflation. Or are they going to go with Alien and Aliens, right? Back from a long time ago. Well, I would have, before Alien Earth, would have said go with Alien and Aliens. After what happened with Alien Earth and how well Alien Romulus was received, and the new Predator Badlands movie, I think they need to go with the futuristic technology from the Ridley Scott prequels and Alien Isolation. So what would you make the touchstone of the Alien franchise going forward? Because we got to lock some stuff down. Now, what about Sir Ridley Scott? He's still in the mix here, make no mistake. Although, I guess he's earned it, but he has a little bit of an attitude problem. So he was going to make another Alien movie. Then he was like, no, I'm out of that. And then Alien Romulus did well. And he was like, oh, I'm back in, right? When something's a success, everyone wants back in, which is, again, why I said they might be able to get Schwarzenegger now. But I think a Ridley Scott directed Alien movie where Ellen Ripley and Amanda Ripley are there, that would be a very strong play. And you know what? Ellen Ripley could not only be a synth, But maybe she's a hybrid now that we've introduced that in Alien Earth, right? If we're going to introduce this stuff, let's use it across the franchises, man. I mean, like maybe we discover that when you sign up to work for the company, they copy your brain waves because that technology did exist prior to the movie now, because Alien Earth was a prequel. Maybe they copy your brain waves and they can upload you into a hybrid. That would be they would have to feel you were a very valuable employee. But I mean, what is that? I mean, Ellen Ripley definitely becomes that because of her experience with the xenomorphs. But maybe they're like, maybe it's just, they wouldn't know her knowledge because it would be something that was recorded before she left. But maybe they're like, it's just her sparkling personality. Maybe let's get her in here. But I think I kind of like that. But again, we have to spot poll the fandom at this point, and I'd be curious to hear your feedback down below. Now, speaking of nostalgia and the popularity of synths, we're getting closer and closer. I can feel it to an Avengers-style synth team-up movie where we get all these crazy robots, or at least their models, right? Might not be the exact model, but their models together. How can we not at this point, considering how popular they're proving to be? And I gotta know what happened to David. We can't just leave that storyline hanging like that. I mean, we can, but I don't want to. Also somebody was like, I'm sick of Michael Fassbender. I saw one comment where someone was like, I'm sick of him overshadowing the Xenomorphs. And you're like, hey, don't hate the player, right? Hate the game. I mean, he's so likable as David. I would love to see him come back. Andy, Timothy Oliphant's character from Alien Earth. I mean, there's a lot of great synths here. All right. And of course, Elle Fanning. All right. So also with Alien Earth, they not only have the synths, cyborgs, and hybrid situation, but they introduced new alien parasites. One of the best things about the show that I don't think it got enough credit for. Although everyone loves the Eye. And I think one of the main reasons that people are excited about an Alien Earth 2 is to see the Eye finally speak and communicate with us. And for the first time, an alien parasite would become a character in the franchise. Just like Trachtenberg was able to successfully humanize a predator. That's amazing. Kanoa Hawley successfully, I think he already has to some degree, because even though that Eye ain't speaking with, verbally, he's certainly, she is certainly already communicating. I'm very excited about that. Although, because again, Alien Earth is a prequel, what has happened to these parasites in the future films, right? Same with whatever happened to David. And that's the problem with prequels. It's a real issue. I mean, it just makes the franchise timeline very messy. Just ask Star Wars, and can make some of these stories seem, it's a double-edged sword. People like prequels because it creates more to discuss, more to break down, more references. But you could do it if it was a futuristic thing, a story ahead in the timeline. But then also it brings up a lot of questions as to why hasn't this had ramifications in the future. Dan Trachtenberg, he has managed to lock his Predator franchise down, and he's gone back and forth in time too. But still, he's made it all work. Although there's less Predator lore, to be fair, right? He's not in as complex a space. He's making it complex. But Alien has multiple cooks in the kitchen now, whereas Dan Trachtenberg is the sole creative driving force over with Predator. So somebody needs to come into the Alien franchise and straighten this all out. They can't have people working like kind of next to each other, but not coordinating, right? I mean, look at the conversation we're having. It's hard to lock it down. So should Disney consider hiring an executive, not a creative? Dan Trachtenberg's making Predator movies. He doesn't want to run this whole thing. But they need an executive to oversee their Fox franchises, especially if they continue to intertwine, as I suggest they do, because that worked out so well for Predator. I think every major franchise at every studio needs an executive, not a creative, but an executive with creative ability, because you want feedback, right? In charge. However, of all the executives in charge of franchises, I would say that only David Heyman with the Harry Potter franchise, and it's not like he hasn't had his hiccups, but he's the only one who at least has kept his story locked down, and there isn't any confusion in that regard, which is interesting. So what do you think? What executive in charge of franchises do you think has done or is doing the best job right now? And David Heyman, by the way, is now going to run Bond with Amy Pascal, and I actually think that's a very good choice. All right, so finally, what's going on with the Apes franchise? Apes is a tough one. How do you loop them in to what's going on with Predator and Alien? Because initially, the first film, before there were major, franchises, multiple movies, right? Not to say that it didn't happen occasionally, but not like now. It was a Twilight Zone-esque cautionary sci-fi tale about humanity going off the rails in terms of science, environmentalism, and war. All threats to humanity, which we do to ourselves, that could give rise to another dominant species that could do better or make the same mistakes. But how do you build a franchise out of that? They were very clever to figure out that they should go back and show the rise of the apes, how the apes surpassed humans and that struggle until the apes finally took over, right? But now where are they going to go? Now, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I think, came up with another interesting idea. They're like, okay, well, we've seen what it looks like with humans in charge of the earth, and now are seeing what it looks like with apes in charge of the earth, right? But they have considerably less technology for the apes. It's funny. In the Planet of the Apes original movie, the apes are a lot further along than we've ever seen in the Caesar timeline. So that's a choice. But anyway, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was like, well, what if humans get smart again? Or some never lost that ability. And then we now have a fight for the planet. It's apes versus humans and they're even keel. Or maybe there's the other big question. Maybe they could find a way to coexist. I don't know. It's interesting. I liked Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I thought it was a good movie. Although these are very intellectual, real world commentary things. It's hard to compete with the fun of Alien and Predator, right? Now, I don't think a predator or a xenomorph is going to show up in an apes movie. I don't think that would work. But I think that maybe an intelligent ape could show up in a Predator movie. Look, Deck is building out his team. What if they add an intelligent ape and maybe the eye parasite from Alien Earth or another type of parasite like that? There's multiple xenomorphs. It stands to reason there would be multiple eyes out in space. So what would you think of filling out Deck's team in that way? To me, I think it's pretty exciting. It's interesting. Both Alien and Apes, Alien even itself has a little bit of a serious element to it, right? Whereas Predator has always had more of a pulp feel. And Trachtenberg has, again, brilliantly been even nudging it more so in that direction to have fun with it, right? To do fan service. And I think because he's nudging it ever so slowly, I think he's getting fans to accept and doing a good job. Fans are becoming more and more accepting of where he wants to take it. I do believe that Trachtenberg creatively is going to lead the way, and whatever executive comes in, we'll probably check with him and hopefully Jimmy C to get this Disney Fox franchise fully up and running. But what do you think? Where would you like to see these franchises go? Which is the priority to you right now? And who do you think leads the way? And how do you see them potentially crossing over? And are any of them you think shouldn't be included? Share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.